So I went through troubleshooting and I traced it back all the way from here through various steps, understanding where that geometry came from, and then trying to trace it to an origin. And what I found was that it came from the top chord curve, right? And I followed this all the way back, and that brought me to here, which brought me back to here, which brought me back to here. And so the problem that I'm having is these lists of points when I have multiple applications. So I designed it only designed for one. I didn't apply it to multiple instances, and so I didn't come across this problem. But when this list gets flattened, it'll flatten the list from every single one of the trusses, and then it tries to connect the line between the trusses. So when we had that problem before where we plugged everything in, that's what was happening. It was crossing different trusses because the count was off and the trusses weren't subdivided. So what do we do? Ultimately, what we can do, because these items are coming in order, if you notice, the y value here is 1, and then the y value there is 29. So that tells you that it's putting it in order. So if I just partition this list by how many input values there are, then it should properly graft everything forward from here on out. And I might have to carry that through, but I'm seeing a lot of grafting and everything else, so it might work here. So back in the beginning, this is my partition count. And I'm going to go to list, partition list. I'm going to take these points, I'm going to partition it by this subdivision. And just to be sure that it's properly structured, I'm going to look at it with a panel. So you see all the y value 1s and the y value 29s are there. Now I have to replace all of the point connections here. And when I'm doing something like that, rather than doing cross-referencing between two lists, I'd rather lock the solver so it doesn't calculate, make all the connections replacements, and then open up the solver again for it to calculate. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lock the solver and replace all of these connections. So length, list, list, and then unlock. And it should take a moment. I'm kind of worried about having a grafted list that's still getting split. Okay, so we managed to, oh, I see, I think I know what's going on. So we managed to get rid of that crossbar. The crossbar issue is solved. However, when I did the rotate for this item, I rotated it, I rotated the entire construct. So since all of this is being calculated at the same time, and it passes through all this information, the result is a merging of a list of constructs that are all getting wrapped around one curve, rather than its particular curve. And so what that leads me to understand here is that while this list is flattened when it gets to the end, this list is grafted. So that's why we have both of those closed B-reps getting rotated around it. So I'm hoping that if I just flatten this, there we go. Turn those off. Looks to me like I'm corrected. Okay. So I feel confident enough now to add a few more. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to add, like, I guess I'll add 4 more to the list in order to test a reasonable sum. And then after that point, if it calculates properly, I'll add all of them. So let's go back here. I'm going to add 4 more. So let's do 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll pause while it calculates. All right, so we are successful. So it looks like we've got our truss here on both sides, so that's really good. And so next up, I think I'm going to plug the entire list in next time. And it'll take a while to calculate. I'll probably in another video, if I attach it all, I'll show you the whole full thing, but essentially this is the idea. Okay, so I'm going to make sure you guys get all caught up to this point and that we all get all of our trusses in before I proceed.